came down on a lightning bolt. 9 months in my mother's belly. When I was born, midwife scream and shout. I had fire and brimstone coming out of my mouth. I am foreign. I'm the Obeah Man. Nah.
Well, yes, I am aware of what cultural appropriation is. I just don't care.
I believe that a white person can practice an African traditional religion.
She really collected his locks.
Black lives matter. And black spiritual traditions, they also matter.
What up? Foreign Man from Foreign Land is now a CJDX sub-channel. I'm not starting to signify B-sides. This is my new area to vent my thoughts. This guy is gonna just move over to the side and shut the fuck up, and you're gonna listen to me and just believe things that I say. Make sure that you subscribe to the CJDX YouTube channel if you haven't already. I'm sure that you have, because my channel's like 10 times the size of this.
We interrupt this program to bring you
Foreign, the recovering homophobe show, starring Foreign, the recovering homophobe. My big and be them woman, them and man, them listen. We gotta talk. In this video, I asked you to hold me accountable of ridding myself of homophobia. In this bigotry support group, you are my sponsor. Not to be confused with today's sponsor, Curiosity Stream and Nebula. Your job is to keep me on the straight and narrow path. Actually, wait. You hold me accountable and I volunteer my mistakes that I could have easily kept in the drafts and avoid outrage. But I regret to inform you that I fall off the damn wagon. It was leg day, and you know I's the leg god. You're Jim Himbo reporting for booty. But unbeknownst to me, my squats would be stopped. A distressed dame needed help lifting a heavy weight. Which is exactly why you come to the gym. Why are you here? But like a moth to a flame, or champero to trans people simply existing, I jolted to this task. If I would lift weights this way regularly, my vein would have popped more than my... But here's where the bigotry begins. I go on back and I drop my ass to the grass like I talking Megan knees right now. And as I re-rock the bar, I see this man in my periphery. Immediately, as instinctively as breathing, my face suddenly suck a lime. I look like this. I turn around with the most attitude. I turn around like, how may I help you? And he say, hey, Foreign. I clutch my non-existent pearls of performance. This zesty Bahamian man with shorts an inch from being briefs in a crop top, cocoa buttered to bits, was a foreigner. And I wrongfully assumed that they like man. And I felt wretched. Beyond the fact that they are foreigner and they obviously watch these videos, but because I supposed to be better than this, I supposed to be this beacon of progressive masculinity. But my homophobia reared its ugly head, so I sublimated. I say, my bad, family. Hard go, Dredge, you good? But that's when I noticed that this man been licking his lips like, and raw dogging me with his eyes like, and in that moment, I felt like every gal that dare to tread a gas station forecourt at 4 o'clock in the flicking morning, I was being preyed upon. A position that a cishet black man like me is rarely in. A position as foreign to me as missionary. But I couldn't be positive as to what this was. You know, maybe man lip was just that dry, and maybe he had a lazy eye. Till he asked me one question that I never hear in my life. Prepare your ears for the worst slur a straight man can endure. I know, the persecuted straights. My boy draw a simple on his face and ask me if I is a ba-ti man. My bungie hole clench right up like Arthur Fist. My cock roll up like fruit roll up, and my torso gone into fight or flight. Cause Bati man is equivalent to the F slur in every country outside of the turf kingdom. I was shocked. One, that he even said the slur in the first place. And two, that I was giving Saucy Santana enough that he could even ask me that question in the first place. So in a valiant attempt to defend my straightness, I tell this man to get from round here with that. I use my deep baritone voice and let everybody in the gym know that my holes are exit only. I storm out the gym because I was too upset to even finish my set. I felt Like my masculinity was under attack. So I go on home and I ask one of my queer brethrens them if I give off gay vibes. And rightfully so, he asked, why does it matter? And that question alone sent me down a rabbit hole of rumination. Why did it matter that this man found me attractive? Why did I get mad at the proposition, the mere proposal, that a man found me attractive when I was just fine with performing Thor for the local gym body? Instead of seeing his attraction to me being a commentary on my masculinity, I should have seen it for what it was. Two genders found me sexy that day. But I didn't feel sexy. I felt like a fraud. Because I've been preaching progressivism and performing homophobia. And the stain of performing progressivism whilst battling my inner colonial mind is painful. Because it resembles the dichotomy that I break down in these videos. But this ain't the end to the error of my ways. Because after talking to today's guests, I may have been wrong about religion. First off, what's your relationship with your spirituality, if at all?
I'm conservative. Also, I believe in God, and God is conservative too, turns out, actually.
I don't fuck with that voodoo shit.
But first, I just get one notification that caused me pull over on the side of the road. I thought that this gal was going for good, but out of nowhere, she dropped a movie.
They were handed an incredible challenge with adapting this series of books that at the time was considered unfilmable.
Lindsay Ellis is back. My big NB them woman them and man them, listen, it has been a drought, and it still is a drought on YouTube because Lindsay Ellis's return to content creation is only available on my streaming service, Nebula. And if that ain't enough, guess who dropped a whole damn series?
Gamergate isn't just another historical event for me. This is something I lived through.
And the only way to get that new Lindsay Ellis and Anita Sarkeesian is through the smartest bundle in streaming, Curiosity Stream and Nebula. You get thousands of amazing documentaries on Curiosity Stream, as well as bonus extended cuts and exclusives you'll never see on YouTube from your favorite independent creators on Nebula. But most of all, you get to keep these conversations going. Because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. Not in a parental way, but you understand what I'm saying. Advertisers think it's far too risky to monetize content about fighting for the most marginalized, but they have absolutely no problem with monetizing content that makes us fight. So for less than $15 a year, you could fight beside me, stimulate your brain in the process, and not just tweet about it on Elon Musk's Twitter. Click this link in the description to get access to the smartest bundle in streaming, Curiosity Stream and Nebula. Now come with me to Madison's video on New Age spirituality touched me. The last few years saw the rise of spirituality TikTok. But this hashtag is more than simply rubbing crystals together and doing your best, Miss Cleo.
Call me now for a free reading and find out the truth.
This community is a dumping ground of cultural appropriation. The children are the chalk but dies in themselves in parodies of minority spirituality.
The chalks, damn.
But the people are the chalks.
It's like slander.
And get rewarded for it with thousands of views whilst drawing the ire of the respective minority communities. But as old gals say,
I just don't care.
because due to the lack of institutional power that these communities have, they rarely have avenues of redressing it. Whether it's indigenous folk watching white people talk about their spirit animal or burning white sage, or a Zoe from Port-au-Prince watching a white gal go viral because she impersonating and reenacting a scene from American Horror Story with a Haitian deity. Or there may be another form of justice, or at least that's what it seemed, in the case of Papa Legba versus Caitlin Restin. The first video on my channel in my problematic Caribbean true crime era where a white woman called upon a Haitian deity in the Obeah tradition. Now I ain't going into the specifics of voodoo or Obeah because there's already a video like that, actually a couple of them right up here. But from that sentence alone, it's enough to make some practitioners of both traditions suck their teeth like, and that is due to the fact that these traditions are believed to be exclusive to black people. Now to make matters worse, it is alleged that Caitlin Restin called upon Papa Legba to vex her partner, which violates a core tenet of this tradition, that when you wish harm upon another person, expect it to come back tenfold. So when people heard of the untimely passing of Caitlin Restin, they were very quick to attribute it to our Obeah practices. And let me tell you something. When I was talking about that in that video, the comment section was full of vitriol.
I'm like putting myself in the place of a spirit. If I saw that a colonizer was trying to like summon me to work out her relationship issues, I might just have to kill a bitch too.
Cases such as these have only been exacerbated online, where spirituality is less about healing than it is about capitalism. Miss Cleo existed long before the rest of these mediums. But this is a safe space for black women, so I ain't trying to pick on black women because you could pretty much go to any corner of the internet for that. Because we have plenty of other examples of capitalism corrupting spirituality.
The spirituality community in general is so tied into wellness, and the minute it becomes an industry, it's already doomed. So I think that has more to do with anything, the capitalism of it all, because we're talking about our spirits and exchanging money and products to connect to our spirits. If it's going to be online on TikTok or something, there's always going to have to be a side eye looked at on it, because right now, online is a space where people can make money, and it's the Wild West and it's Grift City. So
whether it be the litany of mega churches led by Skeletor,
Joe Biden is president, ha!
Or the Falwell foolishness with Liberty University, instances such as these are constant reminders of how religion can be lube for fiscal fisting from capitalists. Lest we forget Columbus coming to my country, praying with the indigenous folks, the Lucayans. And at the end of this prayer, they had the Bible and he had the resources. This has been the matrix for my views on religion. Having grown up Anglican to very pious grandparents, a grandfather that played the organ in church religiously, pun intended, all in an effort to get to heaven after a lifetime of giving my grandmother literal hell on earth, rest his soul. I can vividly recall sitting in pews to be lectured to on how to be a man by a trifling, felonious, infidelitous priest. I remember going to confirmation classes to learn how to be holy by the most unholy men. I'm matriculating through a Catholic school where you fondle the balls of a rosary in the hot sun for hours. This is a footnote in the trauma of growing up in a Christian nation. And YouTube's aunt, as well as one of my dear friends, Aunt Khadijah, recalls their experience growing up Muslim. And I could hear the parallels.
I had to stop being Muslim to even be able to consider having sex outside of marriage. It took me a while before I started eating pork. And I felt like I could not be a Muslim and still live the life I wanted to live. I started asking too many questions about the dinosaurs, and I was like, but if the dinosaurs aren't in the Quran, then how do we know that they didn't just write this after the dinosaurs are already extinct? You laugh, but that was a question that got me out of Islam. I was like, wait a minute.
That was your egg moment for Islam?
The dinosaurs, though.
These are the mainstream religions that our indigenous ones were eclipsed by, to the point where people of color fear voodoo and Obeah, not realizing that they're actually remnants, vestiges of our heritage.
Yeah, because it's like been demonized so much that even I'm like, I don't want to fuck with that. Like,
exactly. But above capitalism, above the closed nature of these religions, the most painful part about how they were appropriated is due to the context of the customs. Many marginalized traditions are synonymous with subjugation. So when white folks adorn themselves in voodoo costumes for Halloween, they're mocking, spitting, stomping on the actual traditions that these were inspired by.
I think a lot of us don't even know the traditional religions that we might have had based off of our ancestors from way, way back. There was an attempt, an actual, like, true attempt in Canada and the US for indigenous folks to strip them of their culture and religion and language with residential schooling. African slaves being given new names.
The yearning for a nostalgia of something you don't even know. What you see on TikTok ain't the actual traditions, the actual spirituality. They're remixes, parodies, travesties of what it actually was. But the scenes from Bond and American Horror Story now supersede the actual spirituality it was influenced by. And the kids come out the theater after they watch Nope by Jordan Peele, singing the Obeah Man by Exuma, na 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 Obeah. And they have no idea what they talking about.
Oh, it's fully for aesthetics. These girls on TikTok with their incense and their crystals. I'm a witch. They didn't burn me kind of thing. And it's like, you really liked Hocus Pocus growing up. Of course, you're gonna go buy rose quartz and a little spell book and be like, I'm literally a witch. And I make herb concoctions. It's tea. It's not about salvation or guidance. And I think that's why a lot of people get upset when white people partake in like voodoo or like practices that have roots in Native American culture. It's because all of these things, like when it comes to religion, is rooted in pain.
This was the actual thesis of this video. Until it got ruined. I had all the usual beats. Capitalism bad, white supremacy bad. Did I miss anything? But after Khadijah made this point, I knew this video wouldn't be the same.
We existed before whiteness came and found out about us. Maybe there are some aspects of religion that were born, or Black spirituality that's born out of pain and suffering, but a lot of it is just out of tradition.
I've been fighting these institutions so long that I forgot the ground of which they were built upon. It's so enticing, it's so easy to go to the go-tos, the malefactors that we typically go to, the usual suspects. But it comes at a cost. And the cost, of course, is writing off any other argument, any other possibility. So sure, I can easily say that much of our spirituality is sorted to suffering. But that would be only half true. And just like I wrote off any other permutations of truth in this argument, who's to say I didn't do it for anything else? Who's to say I ain't closed conversations thinking that there was nothing to be gained there? Because I was already right. The people I push away because their beliefs don't coincide with my own. So to have them there is to support the things I feel. For people on this plight, fighting the fight against binaries, we sure do love them. You gotta be this or that. Ain't no in between. Because if you in between, you in favor of our foes. But can two things be true at the same time? Can you be a progressive 90% of the day and a bigot 10%?
And you said you were like, yeah, you could be racist and nice, and I'm not gonna put that in the video.
I might have to at this point.
Well, yeah, I'm forcing you to. My grandma, my Indian grandma, is like, she's racist. And also my grandma, and I love her. And also girl boss, like problematic girl boss. This is a thing that is true that people wouldn't say. The problem that I have with that is just that it is not real. Like, it's not compatible with reality, because that requires you to make this split in your head where you're like, this is me and my social justice brain where I believe all these things, and then I have to reserve about 15% for when I'm hanging out with grandma and I love my grandma, and I have to just put that somewhere else for a minute because grandma's racist, but also like I love her and she's, you know, kind of great or whatever. That's my problem with the Christianity thing. Most Christians have this psychological split where they have this, like, these Christian beliefs that are very puritanical, but then they have this split where it turns right the fuck off because they need to deal with like something else right now.
CJX was really the one that ruined this video because there was a clear hypothesis, a clear answer before he came. But within minutes of talking to them, that path was obfuscated. The signs was there though, because Khadijah was muddying the waters before CJDX even came on.
The chances that your father met your mother and they connected and they got together and then that sperm got into that egg, the fact that that happens and the fact that you were created, that you're on earth at this very time, that you get to see these trees, that is a miracle. I know people get really sad about the fact that, like, maybe, you know, Fermi's paradox, maybe we're the only people, only living things in the universe. The universe is cold and dead and it doesn't care about us. And I understand that that's a sad feeling, but to me, I choose to see it as the chances of Earth even being able to sustain life. If I don't believe in God and I can believe in that, the chances of that happening, it is a miracle. So it should be appreciated and we should have reverence for it. And you don't have to have that by believing in God.
One of my favorite articles I ever encountered in my graduate studies was the correlation between religiosity and poverty. The poorer you are, the more religious you are, which makes so much sense when I think of Nanny of the Maroons, the slave rebellion of the Jamaicans where they thwarted military might, and advanced weaponry. Or the Haitian Revolution, where Toussaint Louverture employed magical properties to free his people from the French. The Negro spirituals that got black Americans through soul-crushing slavery. Religion has been the foundation of many marginalized movements. It has been the gun that has protected minorities from their oppressors. But it's also the very gun that put them in the subjugation in the first place. So what does one do with that dichotomy? What gets you through the darkest of nights?
You have power in the stuff that you believe in. And this may sound how it's going to sound, but like after I stopped being religious, I didn't have anything. And so I have mental health issues as well. So it really doesn't help because it's like, well, fuck, I don't have anything to rely on. Sometimes I really wish I could believe in God because I'm like, that would at least help some things, but I don't. I really don't. When my aunt passed away, there were moments where I was like, I wish I believed in ghosts. Listen, I surrender. If there is some entity way of being able to see her again, just so I can say what's up, let that be a thing. Like, please let that be a thing.
So when my grandfather, the complicated man that gave my grandmother so much grief, when he passed away, and my grandmother bawled out in agony to a God that ain't answer, you think that I was gonna tell her that God ain't real? Where's your God to answer your prayers? But let's not forget that these very churches, these churches of healing, are also churches of harming.
God's arms are open to you. You're always welcome. He hates you now, but once you see the light.
This dissonance of knowing that church is the home of homophobia, misogyny, then having to see it also be the home of healing, of helping. The dissonance is me trying to hold on to that binary because reality is messy. It's nuanced, which in my mind has always been contradictory because Christianity pushes these binaries of good and bad, heaven and hell, and there's nothing in between. Or maybe so I thought, because according to CJDX, those aren't Christians at all.
Institutional powers, your local churches that you suspect are gonna love you for doing all this stuff, they resent it a little bit because they're not doing that.
Your existence is a contradiction to this.
It is, because you're interpreting Jesus' words and you're like, Jesus said to do this, so we're literally doing this. And they're like, don't you want to help with our mission? We're raising $4,000 to renovate our lobby. And I'm like, we don't care about your fucking lobby. Like, there's people that actually require help now. It's crazy. The renovations.
There is always renovations.
They're always renovating.
You're now making this video essay with me because the hypothesis that I started with, I don't think I'm there anymore. But I'm beginning to get a little bit more clear on this. I believe that just as voodoo was co-opted, Christianity has also been co-opted.
Speaking of yay, if you're Christian, you have Jewishness is part of your religion, like by necessity. Oh my God, Christian anti-Semites, unbelievable. The Jews are an oppressed class under the Romans, and they're looking towards their Messiah, and they're hoping that their Messiah is going to be this violent revolution that's going to put them back in power. On one hand, the people on his team that want him to be this like violent hero of retribution, and then on the other hand, Pharisees, who are the religious leaders of the time, his followers want this guy to like to explode and overturn society like through force and make the underclass the powerful. And then you have the religious institution that is furious at the fact that this person is flagrantly disrespecting like institutional, like legalistic religious law. Jesus is a heretic. He's hanging out with like all the people you're not supposed to, the prostitutes and the sinners, and he's going to parties where everyone's fucking wasted. And Mary Magdalene has like a titty out or whatever. It's just like the religious leaders like get their way by killing him, and that like also completely deprives like his number one fans of their fantasy of like, this is gonna be like our salvation, we're gonna get swords and money and shit. And he's like, no, that was never the story. Actually, like, I was here to die. Like, I was here to, it was a different kind of revolution, a radical rejection of institutional power and morality, and a rebuking of the fantasy of like, what does this look like? It looks like we win. Like, looking at Jesus get like co-opted and perverted into just like, of course it's just the same shit, where it's like, people that are invoking this name as like an authoritarian power, as like this is what's right and we need to defeat our enemies, and people invoking this name and perverting it and turning it into law and like this oppressive set of like legalistic nonsense that you can get people in technicalities and enforce your purity by how well you adapt to these laws, and it becomes this money-making institution thing. It's not even new to have people do atrocities, and it's not even like, I can't even be like, oh, this is Western perversion because we have all these issues with the Industrial Revolution. No. People started like so quickly being like, yeah, Jesus, also let's murder people and burn people because of Jesus. So it's like immediately it's been a perverse application. Am I just misinterpreting it? Am I just like, as this progressive person, just applying my own morality to the thing? And it's really the truth of it is how it's been used. Like the more true thing is like, well, actually trust those monsters because they're by far outnumbering you. And then the maybe dark other thought that it's like dark but maybe even redemptive is like, I don't know, maybe that's how it's supposed to be in some ways though, is like what's more Christ-like than being misinterpreted and used for horrible people to do their shit? And what's more Christ-like than for Christians to be required to be different from the rest of society?
Normally I have this very well articulated answer with perspicuity and clarity, and I feel bad because I have that for you today. But I think that's the point. I think that these traditions, these religions, are supposed to reflect reality. And reality is messy. Reality doesn't have perspicuity. It's not clear. It's often obfuscated and muddied, undulating shades of gray, because we don't live in Civitas Dei. We live in the city of man. St. Augustine doesn't recognize gender nonconformity, I'm sorry. The very polis that I studied is marked by the unknown, by unpredictable bounds of opportunity. And the agent that acts in the polis is the person that seizes fortune, the person that is not bogged down by the unknown, but instead embraces it. Therefore, I need to submit to not knowing. And me submitting to that concept is like submission to God, submission to Leviathan, someone that takes away some of your liberty, some of your autonomy, and hopefully protects you, hopefully doesn't take advantage of you. The idea that I must submit to something more powerful than myself, which is the polis, which is the unknown, the fact that I could go outside and something could happen to me and it will irrevocably change my life, that's real. And that is, in a way, the very concept of God. Realizing that there are things beyond my control that I am at the behest of, as common as rain or as rare as rapture. That is God. And wouldn't it be progressive to be open to that? To be closed off to that due to the fact that it may threaten my reality and the way that I know the world sounds rather conservative. That's as conservative as being closed off to a compliment in the form of a man making a move on you because you want to reaffirm your straightness. And you think that embracing that compliment means that you're losing that. You're losing your masculinity. You're losing the safety of what you know. Just as conservative as it is to write off Christianity because you think it's full of conservative crazy people. So, I gotta say I'm sorry. I'm sorry about a lot. What are you sorry about? Are you sorry about not seeing these videos yet, as well as getting access to the smartest bundle in streaming? Because you should be. Click on that. I can see it here. You are now watching The Nebula Cut.